Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, we're back on Voyager ex post facto. Ex post facto. Speaking of legal terms, we're not going to hold you up. The agreement's very simple. Become a Patreon member. You go, you sign up, you send a few bucks our way every month, and we send you extra stuff, and you will be elite. There's no ex about it, no post about it, no fact about it. Although if you want to see posts, follow us on Facebook. It's All Been Trucked Before. This is Ex Post Facto, Voyager, It's All Been Trucked Before.
Well, to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
Jimmy-Jerome. A little later in the program, we'll have Shane's thoughts. He couldn't make it, but he sent us a video, so we'll be able to throw him in here. Keith's still MIA, lost in the Delta Quadrant, I don't know. Or we're lost in the Delta Quadrant. He's back around.
Yeah, maybe. Can't wait to see what his adventures have been.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ex Post Facto, which I'm sure you know, is a legal term meaning retroactively.
Yes.
What are your first impressions of the episode?
I thought for what it was fine. The fun Tuvok, as Hercule Poirot. It felt like, and I think I mentioned this, I don't know if it was with Voyager script or definitely with some TNG. Well, yeah, the terrible TNG Crusher as a witch, is related to witches or whatever episode. It felt like a little like a spec script of like, okay, I wrote a Columbo episode, but now I'm going to turn it into a Star Trek episode or whatever. But all that said, fun enough. It felt, I know this was 95, it felt more like a show from the 70s and that's why I referenced Columbo, which your average Columbo is probably better than this. It's more like maybe one of the lesser ones. Actually, I said Hercule Poirot, which is even loftier, but it was fine. I think.
Yeah, this was one of the ones I had taped on VHS back in the day when it first aired, and I saw it a ton of times. And honestly, I was like sick of it, and so was not looking forward to watching it because I'm like, I remember this one. I don't enjoy this one. But I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, maybe because it's been probably 20 years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't super strong, but it is the first time since the pilot we get anything of significance from Tuvok, which is nice.
Yeah.
Even if the story feels stale and old. I did write down at the beginning, it felt a little bit like tonally like a Twilight Zone, the way they came in with the black and white. And I don't know, I guess it wasn't going for Twilight. It was going for like old melodramatic movie.
Yeah, it was definitely noir-y. And I couldn't find anything to back it up. But the name Ex Post Facto, besides the legal term you mentioned, makes me think of The Postman Always Rings Twice, a classic film that was been remade probably a couple times, but a very noirish film from back in the day. So I thought that was an allusion to that. But with the femme fatale who turns things on against Paris, the dumb guy or whatever.
You mentioned the writing, that it felt like a spec script. I looked up who wrote it. I mean, the story is by Evan Summers, and then teleplay is by him and Michael Piller together.
Okay.
But Evan Summers has 6 shows he wrote for. He did 3 episodes of DS9 that we already saw. The other one's super notable, one each in the first 3 seasons: Battle Lines, Melora, and Meridian.
Okay.
And then this was his only episode of Voyager. After this, he does an episode of Baywatch, an episode of Space Cases, an episode of Beast Wars Transformers, and then he wrote the 2005 film The Seeker, and that's it. Wow. So not a well-known writer, whatever. But the director might be a little bit better known.
Yes.
You directed this episode?
Mr. LeVar Burton, right? Yeah.
Yes, he sure did. So, yeah, absolutely. Very excited about that. We start at the beginning. We already kind of mentioned some of what we were thinking about the beginning with that black and white opening. It was strange that it was from somebody else's perspective. Like at first, it almost seemed like it was a camera, but it was moving too fast. I mean, obviously it was a camera, like a security camera, but then it was moving, talking, and had strange symbols. Did you notice the strange symbols right away?
No, it just looked like interference or static but no.
I did notice, and I guess that was to me like, oh, is it security footage? Like almost like a body cam officer.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty cool though, because later that ended up being a key clue. And the fact that like it was always there and we just didn't comment on it. And for us, there's no way we'd know that those were always there.
Right.
But yeah, I liked that element. I will say though, the raining felt a little bit cliche.
Yes. So again, I think that points again to the noir kind of thing. I wrote as soon as they're like, just Paris is in trouble. I just wrote, this is not a good start. This is no justice. Just so I gave my bi-weekly mention of justice. But although, Liddell could have probably fit in on the Justice Planet. Blonde,
Probably could have.
So I think she would have worked.
Probably could have, but also just awful as a person. Liddell, played by Robin McKee. You're talking about the wife. Yeah. She's best known for the movie Speed, where she played elevator passenger number 3.
Yeah.
And then this episode.
I could have swore, and maybe she just looked like everybody else in the 90s or whatever, but I could have swore she was in a ton of other things, and I was very surprised that she wasn't when I looked.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I saw Speed, but I don't even remember an elevator being in that movie, let alone her being on the elevator.
When I looked and I saw Speed, I'm like, oh, that's where I know her. Nope. That is not the movie. That's not where I know her from. So, but yeah. I think she's fine in the episode. She does what she's supposed to do, but.
Yeah, I mean, the character was super annoying, but that doesn't mean she's a bad actress.
Yeah.
So Paris has been convicted of murder. We obviously saw him commit the murder, so clearly he's guilty.
Right.
Even though we were new in this show, this is what, episode 6 or 7. Yeah. I still didn't buy for a second he was actually guilty. I know we met him in, maybe their thinking is we met this guy in jail. Mm-hmm. We know that's where his first scene was from the pilot, that we might believe he's capable, but he's just too Boy Scouty for me to ever think, like, he went and joined the Maquis, but I don't think he's out there murdering people. It just doesn't seem like.
Immediately the clock starts ticking on what's the catch here? And I say that in the, I'm supposed to go this way, but not necessarily. I mean, this episode was set up as a mystery. So that, and a classic mystery, not only noirish mystery, but to me, like I said, Columbo or whatever, name your amateur sleuth from the 70s and 80s. And fitting again that I maybe that's why I keep saying Columbo, since Ms. Columbo is our captain on the show.
Miss Janeway. Oh, Kate Mulgrew was in Columbo?
I don't know if she was ever actually in the show with him, but she was in a series of shows and I think movies as Ms. Columbo. So I think was the deal.
Oh, Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Later called Kate Columbo, Kate the Detective, and Kate Loves a Mystery, which is funny because Catherine Mulgrew goes by Kate in real life. But it says it's based on Lieutenant Columbo, but she's a news reporter solving crimes while raising her daughter. So it does say she is Lieutenant Columbo's wife.
Okay.
Who was never given a name in the series, but
Columbo always referred to her, but we never saw her. So I guess. Yeah,
it said Lieutenant Columbo, the character, and did not appear on the series, and it only ran for 13 episodes over 2 seasons.
Oh, okay, yeah, I knew it was limited, but in my memory, people loved it. But yeah,
I mean, they loved the first 5 episodes enough that it got a second season of 8.
Yeah. This
was like 79.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Kate Mulgrew best from Roots: The Gift, which we've talked about, and we'll have to watch here as a bonus at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So the Paris's punishment is he has to relive the crime through the victim's eyes. I mean, I guess that's kind of bad because you don't feel what the victim feels, right? You don't feel the pain of the stabbing. But I guess, might get the fear or something, or just having to look yourself in the eyes while you do the murder is kind of a punishment for a highly advanced society if you have remorse and you're not a psychopath. Yeah. But it does seem like a punishment that if you're a murderer, look, if you're a psychopath, it's not going to affect you anyway. If you're not a psychopath and it was just like a moment of passion or whatever, you're going to feel bad enough even without having to relive it every day for the next hour. Right. I don't know. It just does not seem like a good punishment to me on any level. I don't think it'll be effective against the people it should be most punished, and it's too effective against the people that should be least punished.
Here's a storytelling technique, obviously, and you can get away with it because it's a different world or whatever. But in real world, not so good.
We get an exterior shot of Voyager at this point, and I'm sure we've seen this before, and I definitely started noticing they used it a lot in both this episode and the next one. But when you get that exterior shot of Voyager from the front, from above, it looks like it's all saucer. Like, it's just this huge front section of tiny engineering. You get the side or the back, you see the engineering's pretty sizable. But man, like going from the Enterprise, any of the Enterprises, take your pick, where it was more balanced, it
Uh-huh.
feels so front heavy.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't in space, if it was driving down the street, it would topple over frontwards
right,
all the time.
right. I think you're that's fair. Yeah.
We get a fun little scene where Cass and the Doctor debate personhood, which is kind of like a Measure of the Man shrunk down into one conversation. Not even a whole conversation,
Yeah.
but I like that. I like bringing that into the audience's mind because I think you can take for granted that a lot of this audience probably hasn't seen Measure of the Man, or even if they have, it's been many years.
Yeah.
So reminding us of that debate and being like, well, I'm programmed that this operates a certain way. And she's like, isn't that just our brains programmed they operate a certain way? I like the parallel, which also makes me feel good. I know none of our AI is advanced enough to fool us and be like thought of as deserving of sentience, but I have considered that of, and maybe I was just remembering this episode and didn't remember it, but I'm remembering it without consciously remembering it. But yeah, if we try to define exactly how our brain works, and if AI's processes are at all parallel to it,
right?
Like where do you draw the line between sentience and life?
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a computer that's convincing that it seems real and a computer that actually has a real personality? Like, where is that? I don't know.
Do androids dream of electric sheep? Yeah. I also like they mentioned Dr. Spock. I appreciated that. As somebody who in the 70s, people would call Mr. Spock Dr. Spock. I think my dad would do it just to try and get me angry when I was at the height of my Star Trek mania.
It was not only did they mention Dr. Spock, but they mentioned 3 characters in that thing. I had a hard time hearing the pronunciation of the second one, but I thought he said Soong. I could be wrong, but if it was Dr. Soong or not, I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. But the first one was definitely Galen, who you may remember from the Next Generation episode, The Chase. He was Picard's mentor that had done the research that led them to go look for the DNA. Yeah. Which he was an archaeologist, not a medical doctor, which is why I think we could assume that the Dr. Spock, the Spock he's referencing is this Spock, the Live Long and Prosper Spock, and not the baby doctor.
Well, and this is the way I heard it, and this is the way it's in the transcript. Thank you to
you found the transcript? Okay.
The Chakotay.net. Thank you to them. Dr. Salk, Jonas Salk, I think is the second one.
Oh, Dr. Salk. I thought I heard Soong.
Thankfully, by now we've completely rolled back the polio vaccine. We can get back to everything being good here.
If you did say Salk, as in Jonas Salk, then you're probably right that it was Dr. Spock and not Mr. Spock. But Galen, unless there's some other Galen I know about,
that's a great reference.
Right?
I love that. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really make sense because, again, he was an archaeologist, not a medical doctor, but whatever. He studied ancient civilizations. Maybe that's pertinent. Because dynamic, an old scientist is obsessed with his work and barely pays attention to his wife. How many episodes of Star Trek are we up to with that dynamic in them?
Yeah, I mean, and
multiple episodes of both the original and Next Gen.
And I wish I could remember the name of the one with the Apgars on the space station.
Apgar? Dr. Apgar?
Yeah. It wasn't Matter of Perspective. That was the name of the episode, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Maybe it was. But that was also a very,
normal. Apgar was a Matter of Perspective. Although, whether that is truly what you're referencing or not may be a matter of perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I also immediately flashed back to multiple original series episodes that have similar dynamics of a couple.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
it's like, are there any scientists that are actually loving and attentive to their wives in Star Trek?
What are little girls made of? Speaking of why we're talking about androids and what's the difference? That's one of the early ones too. Yeah.
Yeah. The dog is not at all alien looking. It's a very Earth-centric dog. That bumped me and bothered me a little bit because it's like, where did they get an Earth dog?
And didn't we just have a dog episode not too long ago? Or maybe I'm just lumping it in with
Voyager?
Yeah. No, maybe I'm thinking, maybe I'm going all the way back to TNG with one of the Geordie episodes where the woman had the dog.
I know what you're talking about. That was a terrible episode.
It was.
Where she was dead.
And that was one of my later comments was, is this another dog episode? Literally? That could cut both ways.
I mean, the problem is they don't do more cat episodes. I think we both agree on that.
Exactly. That's exactly the problem.
I mean, we have Spot, who we love, and has been in Star Trek more than any single dog. Thank you very much. Well, Actually, I think that's untrue. I think Star Trek Enterprise, the captain has a dog, so it's probably featured more than Spock was. I haven't watched enough to know for sure how often the dog's featured, but given that the captain has a dog on board, I assume we're going to see more of Porthos than we did of Spot.
And I'll give that to Discovery. Book's cat was on a lot, was prominent.
Oh, you know what? With Book's cat combined with
Cat's Paw
and
Gary,
Spot, they may well. There's been
Gary
a lot of
Seven's
one-off
cat.
dogs.
Although Gary Seven's cat was
Isis.
Yeah.
Isis.
Yeah.
Who was a woman, but yeah. Attractive in either form.
Yes.
Dog-wise, I mean, besides the Aquiel, was their name Aquiel? I don't know, the dog in the Geordie episode, and this dog.
Yes.
The only other
that was Aquiel was the girl, the woman, and
the one that springs to mind is the Enemy Within, but that was an alien-looking dog.
Right. Yeah, they put all.
That's what I wanted. I wanted another alien-looking dog.
Me too. Even if it was cheesy. So Kim and Paris are down there. We're flashing back or whatever, and Paris says, "What are you looking at?" And Kim says, "Not the same thing you're looking at. That's for sure." And then Paris says, "What are you?" Oh no, he says to the dog, "What are you looking at?" What? I don't understand what's wrong with looking at Liddell. So I mean, Heather McKee, is that what we called her? Tanner McKee's a place for the Philadelphia Eagles. Ms. McKee I couldn't tell if everything on her was like a headdress or her species or both.
I assumed it was species oriented because they all wore them, but the fabric that wrapped around it, I think, was fashion. But again, they were all wearing.
Yeah, that's true. So,
it is pretty odd because I struggle to think of any fashion choice that like the majority of human chooses to wear. I mean, maybe glasses is the closest thing because like half of us or more wear glasses. But other than that, I don't know. Oh, speaking of The Enemy Within, because we just mentioned it, and I'll cut this from the podcast, but Ben Stiller was on one of the late night shows the other, and I told you he spent a lot of it talking about Star Trek, and he owns Kirk's wraparound shirt from The Enemy Within.
Amazing.
As well as the Gorn head and several other major props. Neelix is not funny. When he comes into Janeway's office, because she has questions for him, and then he makes himself laugh, and she just has the most exacerbated face. And then he keeps going like, "Oh, that's curious. Oh, no, that's curious." And you know what? As much as I disliked Neelix in this episode, he was not my annoying, but I disliked him. Probably he wasn't my annoying because he was in so little. But as much as I disliked him in this episode, Janeway's facial reactions to everything he said were aces. Watching Kate, just watch Kate Mulgrew's face during the Neelix scenes, and you won't mind the scenes as much. He got all the like exacerbation and the interest when he actually was doing relevant stuff. So kudos to Kate Mulgrew for even being able to pretend that he was being interesting and raising good points. I mean, that's to Janeway's credit that even when she's super annoyed, she'll listen. That wife that you mentioned before, when we start to see flashbacks. So besides the memory, we get 3 different people's perspective in flashback. Liddell. When she's laying on that chair smoking, that's pot, right? Because she is so relaxed and laid back.
Oh yeah.
That I know the dialogue indicates it's just nicotine, like smoking's bad for your health, but she is definitely high on drugs at the beginning of that. Then later in the scene, she does seem like it was just a cigarette, but I didn't buy it. Maybe it's quick acting pot.
That makes sense, and that's also another trope of old noir movies. That's great.
Well, that would have been nicotine in old noir movies, but just the way she was laying on that lounge, I assumed.
I thought I was going to have to put my legal hat on, but this was more of a mystery sleuthy kind of thing. But I think it's using victims' memories as evidence. Seems like there's a lot of issues. Could be a lot of issues there. I mean,
well, we know memories are fallible, but I feel like if you can actually get into the brain and pull them out, those are probably pretty accurate. If you can see what the victim was seeing, I think that's got to be accurate versus our brain making connections and just latching onto impressions.
Yeah, I guess if maybe it's just defense attorney. I mean, I would be raising objections as to how do we know? Doubting the veracity. How sure are we that that's the mechanism extracts perfectly and all that kind of stuff? But obviously it's settled law on this world. Nymeria or
This was almost Cardassian justice, right? Like the trial's
yeah,
already over
yeah,
before they even
yep,
talk to them.
yep.
We keep reliving the murder. I will say I watched this episode with my 7-year-old, and she was greatly disturbed by the murder scene, even though it was tame compared to
Yeah.
other standards, because she hasn't watched shows that have murder in them. And the fact that they kept re-showing the scene, there were a number of minutes of this episode she watched from behind a pillow and did not actually see.
Oh, yeah, I don't blame her.
I was a little sad that they just kept showing it again, even though it does seem pretty tame by compare. Like I had mentioned for Patreon, I just watched Squid Game, so it seemed really tame.
Oh, they warned Janeway, any attempt to provide aid or supplies to the Benea will be considered an act of war against the Numeri, which pretty much Chekhov's warning, right? Like as soon as they say that, there's gonna be an act of war at some point. Or I guess it doesn't happen, or does
No,
it?
but it would have. I mean, it is part
It
of
sets
a
up
plot,
the framework,
right?
yeah.
It's a clue in the ongoing saga of clues. Paris's cell that they're keeping him in looks super comfortable. It looks like a living room or a reception room. So I will say, even if they make you real, the punishment, while I do have a lot of problems with that being the punishment of them reliving the memory, the fact that they're keeping you in such a swanky cell makes it seem very much like they're a highly advanced society and they're not going through cruel and unusual punishment.
And maybe I think it's right before then, because is this when Tuvok's talking to him? Yeah, it's I usually praise the mat work on Trek. In this instance, I did not love the mat work at the jail or the prison. Maybe it's a county jail. Maybe that's why it's not so beautiful. But Tuvok asked Paris, "Were you having improper relations with his wife?" And Paris never says, "Well." No, he doesn't answer. He doesn't say no. I wrote, and then he said, Tuvok says that doesn't answer my question. He says nothing happened between us, and then he says almost nothing. So I love Paris. Maybe not be guilty of murder, but he may be guilty of some other things, which improper thoughts, and we're not sure what else. But yeah.
Did you think it was weird that Janeway was so confident that he was innocent, even after being told, "Wait, we could watch the victim's memories and we saw it"? And Paris is like, "I'm innocent," but also, again, she just got him out of prison.
Yeah.
It seems like she should at least entertain the idea that he's guilty.
Yeah, because, I mean, the audience, you and I think anyone else watching it, probably was pretty sure he was going to be fine. But, yeah, I mean, she's always there for her crew, so maybe that's her default thing. But
yeah, I mean, I can see being in front of them confident that he's innocent. But then you get him back and you're like, okay, now tell me the truth. Why'd you do it? Like,
right.
Give me the lowdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We should go ahead and mention those guest stars at the moment. Minister Cray was played by Frances Guinan. As far as we know, no relation to Whoopi Goldberg's Guinan.
Right.
Best known for the 2005 film Constantine, Speed 2 Cruise Control, because we got Speed.
I did see that on his stuff.
And the 2010 movie The Last Airbender. 92 credits.
Yeah.
So
too bad Last Airbender is listed in there, because that's a terrible movie.
That's the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong version.
Yeah.
Which I did watch, and it was not good.
I saw it at a midnight showing, and there was some other movie we could have seen instead. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "Oh, this is so great," because she was thinking of the TV show, and it did not live up. But we talked a little bit.
Done some voices in Star Wars video games.
Oh, okay. You mentioned the memory being the punishment, and I wondered if that would be cruel and unusual punishment under our system before the last 2 or 3 years. Now I think there's a good chance it would not be viewed as cruel and unusual, but I think under the Supreme Court for the previous 50 years, it might be. Our Supreme Court, obviously not the Supreme Court. They're okay with it.
I definitely think it's cruel and unusual, and I want to add on that, but first, Frances Guinan will also be back for an episode of Enterprise later. But anyway, to add on to the cruel and unusual punishment, Tuvok talks about how it used to be lethal injection. And I did wonder, like, what's their level of mercy? If he's getting brain damage, they were clearly horrified by that, and they didn't want him to have a slow, painful death. But also, they were just going to give him a quick, painless death, or not very painful death. It still results in death. So, and the sentence isn't supposed to be death. Clearly, by the really posh cell and the way it's supposed to work, like, they're advanced and they don't hurt people anymore. Cruel and unusual punishment. So it's a shame if it would be a real shame if their alternative was just to go back to killing. So hopefully they would have offered something else, a little more creative.
Yeah, that's
Although
a
who
fair
knows?
point.
Who knows what their legal system? Who knows what their Supreme Court would say? We saw some reasonable members of the species, but we have reasonable people in America today, and nobody who has any sense would call our Supreme Court reasonable. So
Yep,
you just never know.
here we are.
Surely by now, half the justices have been impeached.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The wife's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Tuvok goes to visit Liddell, and the dog Nika barks at him, and she says she just doesn't like strangers. So I wrote it. It's not a racist space dog. It's not racist against Vulcans or Starfleet officers. It just doesn't like strangers.
I mean, that's what was again another important clue for the detective to finish it off.
Yep.
Liddell says she's leaving her husband for Tom Paris, even though that story doesn't hold up to even a little bit of logic. I get that Tuvok can't just say that's not logical because humans and I assume this species aren't logical, but it's like, why would you leave your husband? I get the like, oh, he was the catalyst to get me to leave my husband, but that's not how it was initially presented to us.
No, and it seems, and obviously we don't see out the entire. They couldn't have been hanging out for that long, right? How many days are we talking? Are we even talking a few days?
I mean, I assumed it was just a couple. They did take a shuttle, which was interesting.
Yeah, but if you think of some of those episodes where Kirk's suddenly in love, it's like you just met her 6 hours ago. I like that Liddell asked Tuvok, "Are you married?" He says, "My wife and I have been married for 67 years," which feels like the setup to a joke, but there wasn't one. It was just they got back into her marriage or whatever. But yeah, I know it's there to show how old Vulcans are and I guess loyal, but it still seems like a great joke setup. So, but maybe it'll come back around at some point.
Paris said he didn't drink the tea and he never went to the atrium. He just fell asleep. I mean, at that point, couldn't you just assume that perhaps the tea does something to human physiology that we didn't know about, and he did do the murder and just doesn't remember it?
Oh, that's a fair point.
Maybe that's my alternate episode, honestly, is that he did it. It was just, but it's not entirely his fault. It was a drug interacting. And then it gets a lot more thorny on whether you find him guilty or not, especially because they purposely take the drug or whatever. Right?
Yeah. Like, that's actually more interesting. Mine was
thinking from a legal perspective, could you get him off if he did not know that he would have that type of interaction on him to make him violent and whatever? Well, and he was given it.
At a minimum, in our system or whatever, close to it, he couldn't have the intent if he, it wasn't, he was impaired. Yeah, he might maybe not murder, maybe something else.
Yeah.
What was I say?
Old Maquis trick is new again. The trick they used to get away from the alien thing. And there's a cute little exchange there where Janeway's like, you won't be able to use that trick against Starfleet anymore. He's like, oh, I got gobs of tricks. And I was like, oh, I love Janeway and Chakotay's dynamic. I wish we got more of it so far. But also, the other side of that is their joke is that he's still going to be a terrorist and he can still get away with his terrorism. So it's not a great joke from that perspective. I mean, I know it's a matter of perspective, but
Well, of course. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, or is it next? Oh yeah, I'm jumping way ahead. I was jumping to the mind meld, but I think that's still a few scenes away.
That's where I am. No, that's where I am.
Perfect then. I thought it was weird that the EMH was explaining to Tuvok how mind melds work. Like, I guess that was for people who hadn't seen the mind meld.
I know more about mind melds than you do, and he probably
did say that. He does say that, and maybe he does because there's no mind meld preamble. No, my mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts. But maybe he practices a different form of mind meld that they don't do that. So
he's more advanced. Yeah, mind meld for the security chief is a special course you take. The funny thing about the mind meld, and so the flashbacks we saw were just relatively regular camera shots and whatever. And then, of course, the memory had the like symbols and whatever. But when Tuvok went into the mind meld, there was some really weird zooming in and out from Paris's thing. I don't know if you noticed, but it was like a really staggered, clunky zoom, which does not make sense to me why a mind meld would produce a memory like that. LeVar Burton, I'm sorry. I'm blaming LeVar Burton for that one. That feels like a director decision.
I think that's fair.
No, Tuvok did solve They come out of the mind meld and Tuvok's like, yes, I solved 2 mysteries. Commercial. You're not going to tell us what they are. That's very Columbo or Poirot or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Him is very judgmental against Paris. Of like, you should have just stayed away from her. And I'm like, dude, you are so like 23 years old. Calm your roll.
Exactly.
Paris is only supposed to be like 26, but I feel like he's like more world wise than Kim by far.
Well, and Paris does say, someday it will be you, Harry. You'll meet her and you'll know it's wrong from the first moment you see her, and you'll know there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, we've all been there, right?
Yes. Yeah. Apparently Kim hasn't. Apparently Harry has not been there.
Well, Kim seems like he was a square. I don't feel like he ever went out to the bar after us examined Starfleet. I feel like he just stayed in his room and studied. And that's fair, but now he's in the real world, so it's time to stop being a square. I mean, I'm a pretty square guy, but even I have to get judgmental about how square Kim is.
Yes.
Or I was a pretty square guy in my youth. I hope I'm still not, but we'll see. The symbol's on the edge. The dog is the key. But one thing that struck me as he lays all this out is they never present a motive. Because this woman, the wife, Liddell, and the doctor is just credited as Doctor, played by Aaron Lustig, best known for Edward Scissorhands, The Day After Tomorrow, Memoirs of Invisible Man, and Dark Man. He has 139 credits.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. Lots of credits. But they never give a motive for why they are traitors to their species and alien spies. Oh, he will also be back for an episode of Enterprise. Pretty sure a different episode than the other one, but still. But just
I didn't
doesn't
understand
that seem
either.
odd?
Yeah.
Well, normally you get a motive. Well, why don't we get a motive for their misbehavior?
Yeah, we don't. You know, like, yeah, I don't understand it either. Maybe we're missing something, but
that seemed to me to be a glaring omission of like shoddy writing that you didn't get. If you're going to do a murder mystery, you have to hit the elements of a mystery.
Right. Well, and I mean, and is it? Oh, she really wanted a marriage, but then she even says he lied to me, telling him no one was supposed to get hurt. You know, I could never do anything to hurt you. And Paris says, yeah, you could, obviously, but yeah,
I buy. Like, you could just say she wanted out of her marriage as motive for the murder, but what I'm talking about is the motive for why you betrayed them to the other aliens.
Right.
Their whole species.
Like, yeah, because we come up with the how, but not the why. You're right.
Yeah.
And the
alien captain was played by Henry Brown, best known for Lethal Weapon 3, Scrooged, and Uncaged. So, in the Lethal Weapons, he was a plainclothes cop in the first one and squad member number 2 in the third one. So not a character you need to remember. But
he did the worst job ever of trying to look not guilty. He just looked guilty. I guess that was the idea, but still, it was funny to me.
And I appreciate the little tag where Tuvok pursued the truth, and I liked the conversation where Paris is like, hey, Tuvok, you're not going to make many friends reading, but whether you try to make friends or not, you've made one today. Yeah. And I'm not sure how, I don't remember if that I don't think that becomes like a really strong friendship in the series, but I still liked it. And I was like, yeah, I kind of wish they'd followed up on that more. That now Paris and Tuvok are great.
Yeah, and Tuvok says, I prefer to read rather than engage in, what do humans call it, short talk. And I was like, short talk? That's all I do, short talk.
Yeah.
And that's
I like the short talk joke.
You know how short I am.
That was a good one.
But I only have 2 other notes, or 3 other notes. One is my recurring one that Paramount Plus is the app sucks. I love what's on. I love the content. I hate trying to use it. And I would say it's the old man in me, but all my other apps work fine. My alternate episode was the Skinamax version of this, which it felt a little like a Skinamax movie, which some of those always had that a lot of those had that murder mystery aspect, and the husband cheating on the wife, the wife cheating on the husband, or vice versa. But the name would have been Sex Post Facto, of course. Yep. And then I like Janeway playing hardball when she's all like, "Hey, we've got 40 tons of thalmarite explosives, enough to destroy your ship. I'm prepared to detonate those in 30 seconds if you don't release our vessel." End transmission. Like, and I'm out. Deal with that. So again, Janeway, love her. And that is all I got on this one.
Yeah, I already gave my alternate. I already gave my alternate episode, so I'm ready for the rankings.
Sounds good.
So, who are you having a drink with for X Post Facto? I bet I can guess.
Yeah, you pencil it. Robin McKee, yeah, gorgeous. And Yeah, I enjoyed her very much. Physically,
You know
and
she's going to spike your drink and have you murder her husband.
it's a chance I'm willing to take. But
So,
I thought, yeah. She, if
I'm
it,
having a drink with Tuvok, not that he would let me sit down with him, but
yeah, he was my other choice. He's my inspiring choice. I like seeing him do his thing.
he was my inspiring choice this week too. That's a unanimous. Yeah, it was a good Tuvok episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed
I
him
do
very
not
much.
know if he included his rankings in his video. I haven't watched him yet. I've
Okay.
just downloaded them. So we'll see.
Gotcha.
Now, though, would probably be a really good time to insert. Let's do our annoyance, and then we'll go ahead and put in Shane's thoughts before we rank the
Good
episode.
idea. Yeah.
So, who was your annoyance next post facto?
You touched on it earlier, Neelix, and I know at some point I'll get away from Neelix, but because I enjoy I'm still enjoying the actor whose name keeps escaping me, even though I enjoy
Phillips.
him. Yeah, I enjoy him, even though the character's annoying me. He's doing a great job with it. But so for Neelix again, it may be me for being lazy, but yeah, it was Neelix just for that one scene.
I get that. I mean, that's your fourth in 7 episodes of Neelix. I have him for 3 of the 4. I don't have him for this week because I chose Liddell. I get what you're saying, but she just, I don't think it was the acting. She was just so cliche in terms of what this is and so done before. And I just, every time she was there, I'm like, this character sucks. Just get us a different character. So let's see if Shane agrees with us. Shane's comments, both for the video and audio, on X Post Facto.
Hey guys, so I am unable to make it to the recording today, so I pre-recorded just a few things for today's episode, which is X Post Facto. All right. Overall thoughts, kind of a detective film noir style. Like, that was pretty cool. Also, Tuvok Central episode, kind of. So, hooray, Tuvok. We're finally getting some Tuvok, and that's exciting because he's one of the best characters. So, yeah, overall, really good. I enjoyed it. Photon Torpedo Watch, we're still at 37. Okay, so there's that. My annoyance today was the wife. Just leave him. Come on, you don't have to go through all that. What did he promise you? Money? Come on. Get out of here. The drinks? I want to have a drink with the dog. That's a little scrappy little dog. Seems to have good taste in food. And inspired, Tuvok, right? I mean, he figured it all out, and boom, we got a mind meld too? A Tuvok Central episode and a mind meld? I mean, wow. Just, that's good stuff. And, anytime they show Voyager, just that sleek ship. I gotta love it. All right, now ranking. Overall, from the last episode, I'd say slightly lower. Just a little bit. Not by much, just a little bit. Detective stuff, not my thing. No time travel, which might be a plus for some people, but for me, not so much. So lower, not by much, just maybe by like 1. So that's my review for X Post Facto. Thanks for having me. I'm Shane. Bye.
Man, Shane was insightful. Wow. I'm so glad we got his comments.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what they were because I haven't listened to them yet, but I'm sure they were. I know Shane, and I know he's a very intelligent, insightful man, so I'm sure they were great.
Yes,
I can't wait to hear them when I'm editing this. Let's rank the episode. Let's start with, let's go with Parallax. That was the time thing where another Paris episode where Paris and Janeway went back in time.
I feel like it'd be recency bias if I went with this one. Although I don't have great memories of that one. Other than, you know what?
Above.
I'm going to go above. Yep.
Yeah. So I told you, this is not as bad as, if you'd asked me ahead of time, I would have said it was worse, but this is not as bad as I remember. I'm trying to think of what was on my VHS tape, and I'm pretty sure it was Caretaker, Parallax that we're just talking about, Eye of the Needle, and this one. I'm pretty sure were the 4 I had because I think that's about all I could have record. Because they were 6-hour VHS tapes, but with commercials and stuff, you went a little long. So I think it was just 5. Those feel like the ones I know really, really strong. Definitely, I think next week's I hadn't seen. It definitely felt like I'd never seen it. I could be wrong, but I did not remember ever seeing it. I have probably seen about half of Voyager. So I've got about half of the series I haven't seen. But it's sporadic, and I've seen some of every season, and I've seen a lot of the end. So I may have seen the whole final season or close to it. But 5 and 6 I'm probably the weakest on.
Did you just see it over time here and there, or was it while it was running?
Both. Like while it was running, they'd still run reruns like once a week and in the summer, and I would catch some of those. And I was like in middle school, high school, so I was trying to like catch them. Like I said, I recorded some of the early ones on VHS, but I was not able to. I can't remember why, but I was not able to set a regular recording of my VHS at that point. It was just not an option for me. So I don't think our VHS player was advanced enough for me to do a regular thing. Gotcha. But yeah, I think this is the last of the 5 that were on the original VHS I watched over and over again. So yeah, glad to see that. Anyway, above Parallax is the Cloud.
I think
it's go below. I think they are close, but I thought the Cloud was at least an interesting scientific mystery that made sense.
That's
where this one, not even having the motive, kind of hurt it.
That's where I was going to end up. I think there's more character stuff going on in that one than this one. So, if I recall. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I think it's finally getting some decent Tuvok plot that might be what, to me, sways this just a little bit above. Tuvok's a great character. I mean, I think Keith said that that's like his favorite Star Trek character, and there's a reason for it. And if you've just seen these 7 episodes of the show, I'm sure you don't know what that reason is. But I swear, he becomes a very interesting character. He's extremely different from Spock. He's not Spock Part 2, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So
I like that about this episode. I thought his
first full-time Star Trek cast member that's a Vulcan since Spock. I know Spock's half. Right. But technically, Tuvok is the first full Vulcan we've had as a main character in Star Trek.
Yeah.
But Next Gen and DS9 didn't have any regular appearing Vulcans.
Yes, that's true.
So, yeah, which is sad. But anyway, next week, we're staying with Voyager for 3 weeks in a row here. This is the first of 3. We are watching Emanations, when the crew finds a mysterious alien burial ground within an asteroid. An unknown phenomenon that teleports the bodies suddenly transports Kim to another planet where an alien race believes he's a being from the afterlife.
We're going to more caves, people. We're going to caves.
But it did not go where I thought it would go from the beginning. So that's good.
It did not.
Until then, live long.
Unlike the dead guy, Tolan Ren, and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?